I mean, I guess I was always interested in Russia or the Soviet Union when I was younger, when it was the Soviet Union, just because, films, propaganda. I really liked history. I was always interested in history, and so, I was like a go USA guy, go, support us in the Olympics, support, US or whatever, and it was I always had an interest in it, but I always wanted, of course, to go, but I hadn't traveled anywhere until 1999 when I went to Abu Dhabi for the World Championship of Jiu-Jitsu for the first time. Um, but my first time here in 2011 in Russia was like exactly like I envisioned. I saw Red Square, I saw Lenin's tomb, I saw like all the stuff. People acted, dressed exactly how I saw in the movies, so it was nothing new. It's only when I started coming here more that I saw Russia for more than it was. But um, I can point to two specific incidences in time where I became political, if you want to call it that. Um, One time I was in college, senior in college at University of Illinois, and I was psychology major, and we had a professor, a guest professor, come in from India, and it was a social psychology class. And I don't know how we got on the subject, but we started talking about how money being spent on individual therapy is better spent on group therapy, how it would go longer, how this, and that led to money being spent, that U.S. tax dollars going to war, going to this instead of, and they go, no, U.S. Well, I remember a student saying, oh, the U.S., we aid all these countries, we aid all these poor countries. And
Yeah.
this professor goes, no, like all this aid is tied to something. It's tied to us allowing military bases there. It's tied to like companies coming in and like taking over their utilities or taking over their, specific privatizing their resources. And the more I learned about it, it's like I walked out of that like just like whoa, like like everything I thought about the like America and like the economic system, and this was like completely turned upside down. So I just started reading a little bit more and becoming more. I definitely wasn't political, but I was becoming more interested in it. In 1999, when I actually won the World Championships, and I came back to see. I was living in Olympia near Seattle, and I flew in right in the middle of the WTO protests, like right when that was going on. And I remember like thinking like, what's all this about? Like what's going on here? And so I became interested in it, listened to like I had talked to some protesters from Olympia and what they're thinking, some guys that from the IWW that were also like saying how they got involved in it and what was going on. And so now I started having like some opinions and change, even though I wasn't very educated in the subject. And the turning point for me was shortly thereafter, I went to Brazil, and I had a fight in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, like one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And I won my fight, and I was feeling like so good. And it was like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, maybe probably 3 o'clock in the morning. And I went walking down to the beach. I think I just was in flip flops and a tank top and shorts, just like I won my fight. I'm on like the beautiful thing. It's warm, it's beautiful, and I'm just like feel good. And I'm walking back to this probably 4-star hotel, like really nice. They had like a midnight buffet and all this. I was going back ready to eat. I think it was like all night. You could eat all night. And I was walking back, and as I approached my hotel, I saw this woman. She was on a box, like a flattened out cardboard box that they broke down. And with her, she had, I don't know, maybe like 3 years old boy and a maybe 7 or 8 year old daughter. And I was walking up, she was right outside the hotel. I was walking up, and the girl ran up to me and asked me for a Rio. I mean, it was like the equivalent of about 30 American cents at that point, 33 American cents at that point. I'm like, wow. And so I went in, I gave him some money, and I went up to this room, and I'm like, I went in the hotel room and I looked down and I didn't see him anymore. I was like trying to look out the window, but where I was in the room wasn't at that angle, so I couldn't see him. But and I thought, what? Like, I fight for a living, and I'm in a 4-star hotel, and here's a woman with 2 children, and these children obviously have never made any decisions in their life to put them in this situation, and they're 2, 3 in the morning begging for money to eat, living on a cardboard box outside with no shelter with their mom. And I'm like there's something wrong. And that night I became political. Like that, literally, I delved into books, research Marx, and like you know like not many books. There's a bookstore, Olympia, and Seattle is a good place if you want to be political.
Definitely.
So I went all over the place, like looking for I got books, I talked to people, I joined the IWW. I went on some protests that I felt strongly about. It wasn't just protesting to protest. Like if I felt strongly about it, I went. And so then it just like developed for more. And then I think the more I learned, the more I realized what I didn't know, and the more I realized that I didn't know before, and the more like ashamed I got for the way I had been for so long and not knowing. It's like, for me, it's like the analogy of from the Matrix, I'd taken the red pill. Like it really just, the whole world opened up and it was completely different than I expected. And now